Hey kids, this is Pulse Ray Vision coming to you live from Quattro Cinco Studios in my mom's basement with another reading of Rings of Dust, Chapter 18, Part 2. We're just going to jump right into this. All right, here we go. We're going to go like that, and here we go. All right. The official statement is that shortage is structural, Ray said. A supply problem, something the Federation and Alpha Corp are working to resolve together, something almost resolved. That is what anyone following the public record has been told. He looked at the Heron. That is what people believe. He paused. It was never a supply problem. It is a race to control the grid. Alpha on one side, everyone knows what these cells actually are on the other. They've been winning that race for a decade by making sure nobody knows it's happening. Squirrel is watching him. But the plateau, Ray said, the ceiling on the growth curve. I can model the mechanism. I can show the suppression records. I can tell you what I know should happen in zero gravity, but I haven't run it. I haven't been able to run it. He looked at the Heron. The plateau disappears in zero gravity. I'm certain of it. The data points to it, but certainly without the experiment. But certainty without an experiment is still a model. It's not proof. He had a name for it now. The theory he couldn't prove from the ground. The anti-gravity project. He said the flywheel in zero gravity. If the growth plateau disappeared without gravity holding it down, everything changed. Squirrel was quiet for a moment. You've been running on that for a long time, Squirrel said. Yes. Ray? He looked at Squirrel. There's someone else working on this theory. The zero gravity variable. Squirrel paused. She's been running the same curve from a different direction. She has data you don't have. Let that settle. She's on her way here. Ray looked at him. Here? Ray leaned back on the bench. You know, most people get extracted from a company that tried to kill them and they go somewhere quiet. You went back inside wearing a fake name and got promoted. Squirrel, who had not smiled once during the entire Panama operation, did not smile now. She has the notebooks. She has zero gravity data. She doesn't know what you found yet. Don't explain it to her. Let her see the overlap herself. The transit house. Squirrel picked up the newspaper. She's not from inside. She moves things. He paused. Go. Ray did not move immediately. He sat with the Heron for one more moment. The 4-degree list. The empty basin. The thin green growth at the edges. He thought about the callings in the building. He thought about the proof in Squirrel's pocket. He thought about the curve he'd been running in his sleep for 2 years, a woman he had never met who had apparently been running the same one. He stood up. His legs held without asking anything difficult of them. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Let's just drag that over here. This is dumb. His hands were in his pockets. His pace when he walked away from the bench was the same unhurried. Was the same unhurried pace of a man who belonged somewhere, or who had learned well enough, across enough time, in enough cities, how to look when he did. Oh wait, I don't have a notebook to write stuff down. Jiminy Christmas. I'm just going to flip it over and do it on the back of all this. Yeah. The transit house was 3 blocks into the market district, above a cell repair shop with the handwritten hours signed, taped to the inside of the glass. Red was there. Expected. No, Red wasn't there. Well, I mean, if she left the park, she could have gotten there. Line 248 and 249. If Red was there, it's because she came from the park. So if Red was there expected, she wasn't there already. The woman at the small table near the window was not. She was younger than Ray would have imagined, though he hadn't known to expect anything. Work jacket, nothing on it, no patches, no insignia. No indications that she had recently come from an asteroid colony the Federation had flagged as a religious extremist cult. Her own wire-bound notebook was open in front of her, with the quality of a notebook that gets opened the moment its owner sits down. She had a pen behind her ear. The transit case sat on the table beside her. Jill von Grutzen, Red said, and stepped back. Ray looked at the name a moment, the way you look at something that lands slightly off center from where you'd expect it. Von Grutzen, he said. Jill von Grutzen, she said, setting the transit case on the table. She saw the look. Yes, it's German. No, I don't want to talk to you about it. No Oktoberfest jokes, no Sound of Music. If you mention Strudel, I will leave. Yes. She said it without weight. It was the fact she had always carried that her family name and the name of Vergolds had changed from where the same had. Yeah, she said it without weight. It was a fact that she had always carried, that her family name and the name of the Vergolds had changed from were the same name, that somewhere in the root of the tree there was a shared ancestor, and that she was distantly and technically, in a way, she had spent her adult life moving in the opposite direction from. Related to the man who ran the company that employed the people who had fired the man sitting across from her. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's one sentence right there. That is beautiful. Hey, Claude, explain this sentence to me. How in the world did you think that this would work? Seriously, clean it up, do better. She had never advertised it. She had never hidden it. Distant, she said, very distant. And they went one way and my family went another. She looked at Ray. He looked at her. Neither of them seemed in a hurry. She put her hand on the transit case and slid it across the table toward him. From Petra, she paused. She said you'd know what to do with them. Ray sat down. He opened the case. 4 notebooks, cloth covered, dark blue, worn at the corners from years of daily handling. The kind of wear that only accumulates on something opened and read and set down and picked up again over years by the same pair of hands. A strip of tape along the spine of the first, penciled in block letters, E. Klein, Volume 1. He looked at it for a moment. He looked up at Jill. I need a few hours, he said. I know, she said. I've read them. Read, left them. He read through the night. The runs were numbered, 369 of them, meticulous, cross-referenced, dated in her block letterhand. The 11-day cycle, the negative pressure variable, the 30-day lock mechanic, the 180-day threshold, all of it mapped. Years before Alpha Corp had named any of it, years before he had sealed the fuel cell in his locker on a Friday afternoon because he hadn't felt like carrying it across campus. She had been here first. She turned the pages. The clock moved past 2, past 3. He was somewhere in the 200s when he noticed the handwriting in the final notebook had changed. Heavier, the downstrokes. A slight right word lean at the margins. Not a different hand, the same one, writing faster or with more on her mind. He found the transaction entry and understood. She had run a zero-gravity test. One run, unauthorized, a directorate survey vessel during a provisioning window. She had logged it as material stability document, and the officer hadn't read the form closely. She had sealed the cell, held it in zero gravity for the full observation window, and documented what she saw. The crystals had not plateaued. In standard gravity, they'd always hit a ceiling. The growth rate increased but leveled off. She'd noted this across dozens of runs and always marked it as a design constraint. In zero gravity, same cells, same environment. No other variable changed. No ceiling. Crystals grew outward in every direction equally continuously, with no preferred geometry and no surface to stop them. She wrote the result once. Then again in the margin, in a different ink. She called it the zero condition. Her final notation was a single line, set apart from the preceding data by a half page left blank. The ceiling is gravity. Ray sat with the case open on the table and Elsa Klein's 4 notebooks in his hands. Outside, Panama City was moving through the gray hour before sunrise. The market district below was shifting from the sounds of late night into the first sounds of morning. She had found it, documented it, left it for whoever came next. In 4 notebooks worn at the corners from years of handling on an asteroid, the Federation had registered as a soap factory, and nobody in this institutional science world had gone looking for them. He had the Panama data. She had zero gravity confirmation. He put the notebooks carefully back in the case. He closed it. He sat. Jill was at the table when the light changed, her own notebook open, a cup of something cooling beside it. She looked at him when he came back to the table and did not ask how he had slept, which was accurate on her part. Okay. Which is accurate on her part. Line 356, chapter 18. This is dumb. He sat across from her. She found it in 12 minutes, he said. One unauthorized run on a provision window. He paused. She was right. I know she was right. I mean, I've been running the model for months. He put his hand on the transit case. The plateau is a gravity effect, not a material limit. Zero gravity removes it entirely. Crystals grow outward in every direction with no preferred geometry and no ceiling. He paused. I had the Panama data, the mechanism, suppression, the batch logs. What I didn't have was confirmation that the zero gravity variable changes everything. The notebooks are confirmation. Jill turned a page in her own notebook without reading it. AlphaCore took the 11-day cycle and ran it every time, Ray said. They harvested, reset. They never locked long enough to find out what was underneath the cycle because the money was in the harvest. You can't monetize the lock. You can only monetize the open. He paused. Elsa locked it. She just didn't have access to zero gravity at scale. He was about to say more when Red came through the side door. She did not knock. She looked at both of them before she spoke. Alpha knows the drive is gone, Red said. They identified the vector this morning. They have people moving through the city. Ray was still. Jill closed her notebook. How long before they reach this district? Ray said. 1 hour, maybe less. Red looked at him. Squirrel says the park. Now. Okay, I like this, but I think it's kind of lame that it happens in the apartment or the safe site. So let's do this. Line 354, chapter 18. Jill was at the table when the light changed, her own notebook open, a cup of something cooling beside it. I think it would be much more interesting if Ray waited for her to wake up and then they went to a cafe where we can see a little more setting, get a little more sensory descriptions of the city. And they're sitting at a cafe and ordering coffee and whatever people in Panama eat for breakfast. And then Red comes up to them and tells them that they have 1 hour, maybe less. I think that sounds better. The market district was full by the time they moved through it. The morning density of cars and foot traffic and the smell of something frying in oil a few doors down. Ray walked with Jill 2 steps ahead, the transit case in his hand. She matched his pace without adjusting to it, which told him something about how much ground she had covered in her own life carrying things that couldn't be left behind. They reached the park from the east path. The heron was as Ray had left it. 4 degrees, empty basin, the thin green at its edges catching the morning light. Squirrel was already there. He was not on the bench. He was standing near the fountain, looking at it the way people look at things they're not really seeing because they're thinking about something else. He looked up when they came. He took them in. Ray, the case, Jill beside him, and nodded once. The small, precise acknowledgement of a man who has arranged a number of things that have now arrived in the correct order. Station Libre, Squirrel said, the collective's orbital station, zero gravity, properly equipped. He looked at Jill. The collective's been running it on parts that should have been replaced years ago. That's a known problem. The question is the funding. Taken care of, Jill said. Squirrel looked at her. I own the colony infrastructure now, she said. The fuel cell supply, the gold windfall surplus. I've seen the station specs. I'll upgrade it. She paused. I'll go with him. Okay, hang on. That's a great sentence, except for one thing. Chapter 18, line 425. Jill says that she's seen Station Libre's specs. Why would she have seen the specs? She can say, I'll upgrade it, but I've seen the station specs is weird. Squirrel was quiet for a moment. He looked at Ray. Ray looked at the heron. He thought about the full 180-day curve, the one he'd been running in his sleep, the one Elsa Klein had mapped from the ground floor of the same problem. The one that would need a zero-gravity environment and long enough time to document completely. Holy shit. Another 18-line sentence. Monkey McGregory. Yeah, so this starts around 4:30, and it is one long ass sentence that needs to be cleaned up and flow better. There we go. He thought about the directorate survey vessel. 12 minutes, one unauthorized window, a woman writing the result twice in two different inks. Okay, why does it say it was unauthorized 15 times? We don't care if it's authorized, and authorized by whom? This is around line 434. This is the fifth time we read an unauthorized window. What does that mean? Who didn't authorize it? Unauthorized is probably the wrong word, and it needs to be changed up. A woman writing the result twice in two different inks. Oh yeah, no, this is all one sentence. That whole thing is one sentence. Jiminy. Christmas. He thought, we need to go up. We need to go up, he said. Yes, Jill said, we do. It'd be funnier if she said he thought it and then she said it. This is around 437 to 441. He thought we need to go up. It would be funnier if Jill said we need to go up because he just thought it. But for him to think it and say it, that's shitty writing, my friend. Okay, Squirrel looked at Ray for a long moment. Ray? He looked at Squirrel. You can stop now, Squirrel said. Ray sat with this. He sat with it the way he sat with it the way he sat with difficult data, patiently, without trying to rush to the next thing, letting the information exist before he decided what it meant. You can stop now. He'd been running the equations in his head for 2 years. He had learned now to move through a city like a man who belonged somewhere, how to hold a cover long enough to use it and leave it cleanly, how to carry the weight of what that cost without setting it down before the work was finished. He had walked out of a building in Panama City with a drive full of proof, and he had walked 6 blocks with his hands shaking in his pockets, and he'd handed over everything he had, and now the work was done. Again, this is just garbage. Garbage. I like what it's saying. It's really important to the story. However, this starts around line 459. It's incredibly stale. and it tastes like cardboard in your mouth when you read it. So make it taste better. The Forcinco cover was finished. No more dead drops, no more carefully reading of badge logs and maintenance schedules, and the learned rhythm of a building security rotation. What came next was open science, zero gravity, documented runs, a station with parts that worked, 2 notebooks and a Panama archive, and a curve that was going to close the case on a decade of manufactured shortage. What came next was open. He felt distantly that he might cry. He was the kind of person who found this annoying and also, when it happened, unavoidable. He pressed the side of his thumb against his eye and looked at the fountain with its concrete heron listing east and its thin green growth and its empty basin. And he thought about all of the things he had been holding. Okay, this is actually too many repetitions right here. Looked at the fountain, right here. So this is line 4, so around 477. Around line 477, this is the 4th time that we've heard this description of the same thing. I want him to notice something different in this description. I want him to notice something different in the last one too.
You're probably not going to believe me.
Sorry about that. The fuel cell on the oak table, the notebook, the 33-day data, the 33-day yield data, the curve that climbed and would not stop. The colleagues in the building who would come in today and find a different world than they had left. The drive, Elsa Klein's final notation, one line, a half page of white space before it, written by a woman on a survey vessel, with 12 minutes and enough courage to look directly at what she was seeing. She had been holding all of it. Oh, he had been holding all of it. He put it down, not carefully, not in any particular order. He just let it down the way you let something on the table. You set something on a table after carrying it from one room to another, and the room you've arrived is in the right room. And you can put it down now, and you do. We got another winner here, folks. Hey, so again, a very long, stale sentence that sounds like someone wrote it in as English as their second language. That's all I'm saying. I'll never figure out. He breathed. Okay, he said. Okay. Ray looked at the heron one more time. He thought he might miss it, slightly the degree tilt, the empty basin, the specific quality of something that was going to keep listing east for the rest of existence, without anyone seeing a reason to intervene. There was something in that he found companionable. He did not know why. He decided he did not need to know why. He looked at Jill. She was watching the heron too. The careful feathers, the lean, the dry basin with its green. Christmas. He had the expression of someone who has just arrived after a long route and is taking one moment to note the landmark before moving on. Around line 509, this is like the 100th time that you've mentioned the heron and the empty basin and the green stuff inside. I don't know if you're trying to memorize it, or if you want the reader to start the book on fire or throw it through a window, but you got to fix this shit. Show me the Panama data, she said. On the way. He picked up the case. They walked out of the park together into the morning density of the market district, in the direction of the relay point and whatever came after. Behind them, Squirrel stood at the fountain for another moment. The still quality of a man who's arranged the last piece of a long thing and is allowing himself one moment to register that the pieces are in place. There we go. I'm surprised it didn't say he was looking at the tilt of the heron and the empty basin and the green growing inside of it. He thought about the fuel cell on the table, notebook margins, the flywheel curve that made the shortage model obsolete. He thought, not bad for a scientist from a town no one's heard of. He folded the newspaper, put it in the recycling bin at the path's edge, and walked out of the park in the direction that was not the direction Ray and Jill had gone. Wait, what the fuck? Excuse my French. Which I don't think the F word is French, but okay, yeah, he picked up the case, walked out of the park. Is this red? Yeah. Squirrel stood at the fountain. Squirrels. I mean, he might be a scientist from a town no one's heard of. And why would he go in a different direction? There's no context for this. There's no context for this. You are hallucinating again. It starts around line 520. I don't know why we're telling people that Squirrel is a scientist from a town no one's heard of. That's just out of the fucking blue. And why is he walking in a direction that's not the direction of Ray and Jill? That's so it's so random. Sorry about that for you. There were 3 days before the transit window to Station Libre opened. On the first of them, Squirrel found Ray at the safe house and a set of folded. Wait. Gee, mini Christmas. Oh, monkey balls. So it says they got 3 days before the transit window, but earlier in this chapter, which maybe you should just read the whole chapter and unscrew your stuff. It says they have 1 hour to basically leave the planet, and now they're just hanging out and they're like, in 3 days you're going to leave the planet. Like, that's not what happens at all. In fact, this part should come earlier because they do have 1 hour to get out of Panama and get towards a place where they can head to Station Libre. So they got to be at a place besides the safe house. And this has to happen before they have 1 hour to leave Panama. So you got to place this earlier in the chapter. Yeah, like I said in the last prompt, why don't you read this chapter and see if it makes any sense to you? If you're going to do this, do it tonight. Do it once and don't go back to it. And don't go back. It should just be don't go back. Line 538. If you're going to do this, do it tonight. Do it once and don't go back. Cut to it. He looked at him. We'll have someone on the street. If it turns, you walk away. And that's the last we ever speak of it. Vince's building was in El Cangrejo, a courtyard full of bird noise. Ray knocked. The door, opened the width of it. Vince's face in the gap, older than it had been a week ago. They told us you weren't real. Mikhail Forsenko. There's no such person. Security pulled your access and asked us the same 4 questions all afternoon. Not angry, something worse. Bewildered. A little afraid. The specific fear of a man who has just learned the ground he stood on was painted on. Who are you? Okay, the ground he stood on was painted on. And I'm going to reread that because I did read that as anger. Somewhere around 548. I like that he realizes the ground he stood on is a great setup, but you should say something like was projected from a movie or wasn't real or was a dream. Something better. Here, I'm going to go ahead and read this. Vince's face in the gap, older than it had been a week ago. They told us you weren't real. Mikov Forsenko, there's no such person. Security pulled your access and asked us the same questions all afternoon. Not angry, something worse, bewildered, a little afraid. That's rewriting that line. My name is Max Vision. People call me Ray. I used to work where you work. I found the thing you're about to find out about, and Alpha fired me and sent someone to kill me for it. And the people who reached me first were the only reason I'm standing here instead of in the ground. He kept his hands where Vince could see them. I lied to you for 4.5 years. I lied to you the whole time. Both of these are true. I came to tell you the second one to your face, before the first one becomes the only thing you remember about me. Vince looked at him a long moment through the gap. Then the door closed, and Ray heard the chain slide, and it opened again, all the way. The apartment was a scientist's apartment, books and stacks that were really a filing system, a table that had given up being a dining table, good coffee equipment, nothing else good. Vince did not offer him any. He stood with his arms crossed and let Ray talk, the way he had once let Ray talk through a feedstock purity model on the lab floor. The same attention, turned now on something with no clean answer. So Ray gave it to him plainly, not as an accusation, as a briefing, the one Vince had spent 4.5 years being positioned never to receive. The shortage was not real, not the way the world had been told. The science of making the cell stable had been finished for years. Vince knew that better than anyone. He ran it every day, 11 days at a time, like a man tending to a clock. What Vince had never been shown was the other column. 11 to 13% of every batch the facility produced was destroyed on purpose, logged, scheduled, deliberate, calibrated to the point to keep global supply a few percent under demand, which kept the price where it needed to be, which kept the winters cold, the factories dark, the relief funds flowing, a year after year into a problem that had been solved and then carefully unsolved. See, that's a really long sentence too, but it flows and it's paced well. And the relief funds did not stay relief funds. Alpha had spent 7 years filing government grants, billions drawn from crisis money, to develop a technology they already had. Ray's technology, the recipe Vince had been refining, reformatting, and resubmitting as ongoing research. So the appearance of the research could be funded long after the finding had been buried. Okay, so that one's too long. Around line 584, the sentence too damn long. You gotta make this more than one sentence and make it shorter, make it flow. You were the proof it was real research, Ray said. Not because you were lying, because you weren't. You are the most honest man in that building, and that's exactly what made you useful. A liar gets caught. A good scientist doing good work, who has no idea what's happening 2 floors up, nobody catches him because there's nothing in him to catch. They built the whole thing so the people doing the research would never be in the same room as the people doing the math. He paused. I read both columns. That's the only real difference between us. I got into a drawer you were never meant to open. Vince didn't say anything for a while. Ray watched him do the thing good scientists do when the data won't fit the model. Not deny it, not perform shock, just sit with it and let it cost what it costs. His face changed in the way a landscape changes when a cloud moves off it. Nothing dramatic, everything different. The third quarter numbers, Vince said finally, quietly. The ones we celebrated. The ones I poured you a drink over. He looked at his hands. I was proud of those. I know. You should have been. The work was good. The work was always good, Ray. Oh, good. Ray let that be true because it was. Oh, that's some garbage. Right around 607, chapter 18, this line is garbage. It just was never the point. Why are you telling me this? Vince said. Because somebody told me once, 72 hours before it was too late. Ray stood. You don't decide tonight. There's a number. Someone answers. He set it on the table. A handwritten sequence, no names. I'm sorry, Vince, for the part that was a lie. Not for the part that wasn't. He left. He did not look back up at the fourth floor window. That was the discipline of it. You made the offer. You let the person be free to take it or not. That the not was theirs to keep. Boom. Chapter 18, part 2, with plenty of me complaining and bitching at Claude. Like I said, we've done multiple passes with this book, and a lot of these things had already been addressed and fixed by Claude. But Claude's a dirty effing liar. Believe in yourself. How are you doing tonight? Good to see you as always. Got a handful of people watching tonight. We're going to end this stream. We're going to start a new stream. That's going to be an update on the crypto side of things. Cheers. We're really close. I mean, it's Thursday night, and tomorrow some big stuff's going down. If you guys want to learn more about that, go to agproject.io. Oh, it's not there. I got to move this. agproject.io and connect your wallet or ask questions or just go and tell us what you think of the site. Tell us what you think about the book in our Telegram, t.me/anti-gravity saga. And yeah, this is a fun journey to be on with you guys, even though I do get irritated and lose my shit and yell at Claude. This is a labor of love, and it's a passion that we can chew on for years to come. There's so much here. It's so deep and rich and fun, and you guys are the best damn community in crypto, hands down. So with that, we'll end the stream. We'll catch you in just a few seconds on the next one.